Сьогодні ми маємо честь вітати високого гостя з Королівства Бельгії, який прибув з візитом в Україну. У пленарному засіданні бере участь прем'єр-міністр Королівства Бельгія Олександр де Croo. Я прошу привітати. Шановний пане прем'єр-міністре, Королівство Бельгія є важливим українським партнером. Бельгія є лідером за обсягами заморожених російських активів та фінансових операцій на суму понад 2 мільярда євро. Країною, яка перша створила і запровадила механізм використання прибутків з цих коштів на користь України, заснувавши відповідний фонд, орієнтовний розмір якого лише на 2024 рік оцінюється у 1,7 мільярда євро. Країною, яка першою доєдналась до ініціативи «Зерно з України», виділивши на її реалізацію за 2 роки 20 мільйонів євро. Бельгія є однією з небагатьох країн, яка заявила про готовність надіслати нам винищувачі F-16. Висловлюємо вдячність бельгійському народові, парламенту Бельгії, вам особисто за підтримку нашої держави та надану допомогу. І дуже розраховуємо, що саме за президентства Бельгії у Раді Європейського Союзу розпочнуться переговори про вступ України до Європейського Союзу. Шановні народні депутати України, шановні гості, до слова запрошується прем'єр-міністр Королівства Бельгія Олександр де Croo.
Mr. President, dear members of Parliament, dear friends, allow me to start with a personal experience from my last visit to Ukraine. As I walked through the streets of Bucha, I was struck by the eerie silence that engulfed the town. The devastation left by the Russian aggression was evident at every turn. The shattered buildings, the empty streets, the troubled expressions of those who had remained. But amidst the rumble and the despair, I witnessed something truly remarkable. The invincible spirit of the Ukrainian people. Despite the horrors that they had endured, they refused to be broken. Instead, they came together to rebuild shattered lives, brick by brick, stone by stone. I met a young family who lost everything in the conflict: their home, their livelihood, their sense of security. Yet, despite their hardships, they remained resilient, clinging to hope for a better future. Their courage and determination were a testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Belgium stands with all those who have suffered at hands of aggression and injustice. Together, dear friends, we will rebuild, we will heal, and together we will prevail, dear friends. Thank you. Dear friends, so let us stand united in solidarity, in support of brave men, of women and children who call Ukraine their home. I believe we can overcome the darkness. We can usher in a new dawn of peace, of prosperity, of freedom. And rest assured, Belgium stands with you, not just in words, but also in actions. We have allocated significant resources for military aid, for humanitarian assistance, and for reconstruction efforts. Today, Ukraine stands at the border between democracy and dictatorship, between right and wrong. And it is you, the Ukrainian people, who today are standing on the front line, and they are defending that border for us. Thank you for that, Ukrainian people. And so, if today you need ammunition, you need fighter planes, that means that we must do more. That means that we must do better, because together we can achieve victory. And victory, dear friends, not only for Ukraine, victory for freedom and for democracy everywhere in the rest of the world, for everyone who's fighting for this. So, let me say this loud and clear: Glory Ukraine, Slava Ukraina! Thank you. Friends, these days are days of momentous remembrance for Ukraine. 10 years ago, almost to the day, was a revolution of dignity, which ended in you decisively choosing the path towards the European Union. What a brave day that was for Ukraine. A day full of pride and full of joy. But the pride and joy of you making that choice on that path was severely tainted. It was tainted by the mournful sorrow of having 107 men and women who fell as martyrs in the defense of freedom. These days are a momentous remembrance for Ukraine. And 10 years ago, Vladimir Putin watched in horror the revolution of dignity that unfolded in Ukraine. The very idea of having a neighbor where democracy, where the rule of law, where human rights would be the lay of land, that very idea was unbearable to the man in the Kremlin. And so he gave his commands. Russian troops invaded and occupied Crimea. Russian troops crept into the Donbass. Russian troops began a protracted military struggle, and scores upon scores of Ukrainians were killed and were brutalized. To this day, thousands of Ukrainian citizens in Crimea and in the Donbass must live under the boot of Russia. These are indeed days of momentous remembrance for Ukraine. 2 years ago, Putin and his Kremlin cronies assured the world that they had no intention whatsoever to do anything in Ukraine. Russian troops amassed at the border with Ukraine, and they were merely partaking in field exercises. They claimed that Russia was a trustworthy member of the Security Council. Russia was a so-called true guarantor of international peace and security. And on February 24th, Putin showed his true colors. He broke promises, he broke treaties, he broke peace. But he did not break Ukraine. 2 years ago, to the day, sirens sounded, Russian missiles flew, Russian tanks rolled in. But, dear friends, your president stood and Ukraine stood, and Ukraine still stands, and it will continue to stand. Friends, this morning I was at the airport of Hostomel, and I stood there together with President Zelensky, together with the President of the European Council, Ursula von der Leyen, together with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, together with the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, to commemorate the Battle of Hostomel. Ukrainian troops destroyed Russian paratroopers who were trying to establish a bridgehead. It was a crucial battle to save Ukraine from being occupied by the Russians. Ukraine has learned to fight back. And within weeks, the Russian tanks did roll back. Russian missiles flew no longer. Sirens no longer sounded. Tens of thousands of Ukrainians have been killed in this atrocious war. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced. Houses, hospitals, schools have been destroyed. A great dam has burst. Woods are littered with mines. Fields are poisoned with heavy metals. The war has plowed a deep furrow of sorrow and loss through the land of Ukraine. All of this we must not forget as we look towards the present and as we look towards the future. I stand here before you not just as the Prime Minister of Belgium, but also as the Presidency of the European Union. The European Council's decision to open accession negotiations with Ukraine was historic. The EU has demonstrated that it is very serious about Ukraine's future in Europe. But above all, Ukraine has demonstrated that it is serious about its future in Europe. And I cannot commend you enough for the tremendous effort that you have made to meet the requirements to put your country in a steady course of reform. And you have done so in extremely difficult circumstances. You have done so in times of war. And we have your full respect for the tremendous work that you have done and that this Parliament has contributed to. Thank you, and all our respect for this. And I was about to say Vitayo, but I'm maybe not pronouncing it in the right way. As you know, the European Union has also delivered on the Ukraine facility. We are fully aware that enduring EU military support for Ukraine is directly linked to the revitalization of the European defense industry, a defense industry that should deliver and that should deliver faster. I welcome the European Commission's initiative to developing an industrial strategy for European defense, and we will strongly support the efforts required to implement it. Please allow me to also say a few words about Belgium's involvement in Ukraine. For the coming year, a fund of 1.7 billion euros has been set aside to purchase military equipment, to provide humanitarian aid, and to help in the reconstruction of Ukraine. With me here in Kiev today is the Belgian Minister of Development Cooperation, the head of the Belgian Development Agency, and a newly appointed Special Envoy for Ukraine. All of that is underscoring our longer-term commitment for Ukraine. 2 years ago, Belgium was one of the first nations to send lethal military aid to Ukraine. Today, Belgium is helping to train Ukrainian servicemen, some in extremely rare skills, such as maritime drone-aided demining. Belgium has joined the F-16 coalition, providing training to pilots and to maintenance technicians. And thank you, we are providing military assistance, but we are also on your side in The Hague to hold Russia accountable for all the crimes that they have committed. And Mr. President, as you said, yes, we have been at the forefront of efforts to use and to leverage frozen Russian funds to the benefit of Ukraine, because one country is going to pay for the destruction that happened here, and it is only one country, and it is going to be Russia, that will have to pay for the destructions that have happened here. Today, dear friends, today, as I have said, today, Ukraine is indeed at the border. Ukraine is at the border between democracy and dictatorship. Today, Ukraine is at the border between the rule of law and the rule by assassination. Today, Ukraine is at the border between respect for human rights and systemic torture. And it is you, our Ukrainian friends, who defend that border. It is you, Ukrainians, who defend that border for all of us. It is you, Ukrainians, who deserve our support, the support from all of us, dear friends. If today your soldiers must retreat, it is not because they lack valor, but because they do not have enough ammunition. If today your pilots do not dominate the Ukrainian skies, it is not because they lack flying skills, but because they do not have enough fighter planes. If today we fail to supply you with what you need, we must admit that we must do more, and we must admit that we must do better. There is only one objective, dear friends: win with a just victory. Razom, razom do peremohi. Together, together towards the victory. Friends, let me conclude by this. We must make democracy trump dictatorship. We must have human rights prevail over torture and over kidnapping. We must bring assassins to justice. Slava Ukraini! Dякую! Thank you. Thank you.
Шановні колеги, давайте ще раз подякуємо пану прем'єр-міністру Королівства Бельгії, шановному Олександру де Croo.